And then we both went to Louisiana. That's when Brad went and was a North American champion. And I had been there once before. First time I went was out of the Crockett territory. Jake Roberts got us down there with Grizzly Smith. And I'm going to tell this story real quick because Ronnie was in it. They didn't run Biloxi much then. And we went to Biloxi, and it was me and I want to say Shawn Michaels, but I think it was Terry Daniels at the time. And we were working with the grapplers, Tony Anthony and Lynn Denton in Biloxi. And Grizz said, you guys go out there, graps over. That's all we used to get back then. We didn't set 5 hours and go over a 4-minute match. And so this was the spot with Tony. It was a tackle drop down. I gave him a hip toss. As he was going over, he said, Lenny's coming in for one. And as Lenny came in for one, he said, Tony's coming back for another one. So I gave Tony another. And then when Lenny came over again, your dad was running in circles trying to stay out of the way. And I said, Ronnie. And Ronnie ran in and took a hip toss. and the place just went wild. It just exploded. It was just one of those magical. And he just came running and took a big hip toss, and Grizz came back and said, "Don't do that again."
I don't doubt it.
Tim, you just touched on something.
The pop.
You just touched on something that back in the day, you didn't sit there for the hours and go over exactly what the promo, as they call it, was going to be. You didn't go over what you were going to do in the match. Sometimes the finish was decided in the ring, and it was get out there.
Absolutely.
We need 15 minutes, we need 20 minutes or whatever. And you guys had the talent and the ability. And what I'm saying that you were up there with Brad as far as could fly around that ring, and I would just sit there and just here I am, part of the business. But there were certain guys that I thoroughly enjoyed watching more than others. Not to say everybody wasn't talented, but you had that ability to keep me count. You kept my attention. And the question I want to ask you is, who trained you and when?
I broke in the fall of '78 in Knoxville. And I'll tell this quick story too. I tried. I know you boys remember the matches at the Tally Ward in Morristown.
Yeah,
Tally across the high school. I took it upon myself to try to get in the ring. Robert Fuller and the Stomper. Stomper was managed by Gorgeous George Jr. For some reason, my 165-pound butt thought I was going to help. And Louis, whom I know y'all know, was booking at the time, and he came out, cussed me out in French, American, and everything, and tried to kick me out. And the police said, "I'll take care of it." And anyway, Louis came over after the matches and apologized for what he said and everything, and started quizzing me. I told him, he said, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm in school. I play football and wrestle and track." And he said, "You got a lot of spunk for a little feller." And I said, "Yes, sir." And he gave me his card. He said, "If you ever get up to 200 pounds and want to try out, you call me." And I carried that in my wallet for 2.5 years, and then went down and he hooked me up with Rick Connors in Knoxville. And that's how I got the
Louis
business.
DeLay trained me. So yeah, I know Louis well.
So I had a lot of help at the time. Back then it was harder to get in the business than it is now. And to reiterate what you were saying, about matches, Charlie, when I went to New York in '06, Arn Anderson told me, he said, it's not like it was. So I'm just telling you. So, and I told those guys, I said, you guys couldn't work in the business 20 years ago, because there was times that you never met the guy till you got in the ring. They were separate dressing rooms. And I said, you can't sit back here I said, if it takes you all 4 hours to get a 4 minute, if y'all can't get it in 4 hours, the people ain't gonna get it in 4 minutes.
Amen.
So, that's just the way the business has gone to. The art of wrestling as working is gone pretty much. So,
Tim, don't you think the main ingredient missing, or maybe it's just me thinking this way, is the psychology everybody learned back in the day?
yeah, there is no psychology anymore. That was being able to work secured your job back then. It doesn't now. Brad and I had this conversation. I couldn't tell you how many times, because everybody at some point gets, why is this guy getting a push? He can't lace my boots up, or the stuff, and we called it the curse, because I went 12 years during the old territory days of not missing a day of work, because number one, I learned early, everybody can't be the quarterback. Somebody's got to block. And we looked at ourselves as utility guys. When you take a guy like Brad, who can work anywhere on the card, opening match or main event with anybody, that's a valuable asset to a company. And that was just, we could work. When I first went to Watts, Jake Roberts told me, said, you'll only be there 6 months because Bill won't let you stay that long. I stayed 13 months and I left on my own. And that's when I came to Continental the first time. But and I went back, and Bill said, "You're welcome back here anytime." I learned more there than I did anywhere at that point in my career.
Did you learn it on those 400-mile trips, talking to some of the older guys, maybe?
Well, you certainly had time. They were good at that point. I mean, I can go back and I've got pictures and stuff. I wish I'd had a cell phone back then, and got some pictures, and then again, we've discussed that with a couple of other guys. If we'd had cell phones, we'd all been in jail. But
It's true.
but I fulfilled a dream. When I got in the business, I wanted to work at the Tally Ward. That was it for me. Then I said, well, I'd like to go to work the Civic Center in Knoxville, the old Civic Center. And then I thought, gosh, if I could get to Atlanta and be in the Omni, and did that, and ended up, working in 28 different countries, all 50 states, the Cow Palace in San Francisco, the old Boston Gardens, Madison Square Gardens, Maple Leaf Gardens, Superdome. I mean, it's just amazing. I wish I would have written all this down back then, because it was amazing. I got to see the world without joining the Navy. So I don't have any qualms at all.
Going back to what you made, a very, very interesting statement. If we all had cell phones back in the day, 76 when I started through, when I wrapped mine up, and had just taped part of the matches and the house shows, how much money, Tim, would we be worth today?
I worked with Gino Hernandez in the Sportatorium in Dallas. I mean, I was pretty green then, but I could listen. I knew when to open my mouth and when not to, and being able to do that, it was just. I remember when Arn Anderson came down to Louisiana, and well, actually, let me tell you this first. Tony Anthony and I went down together, out of the Charlotte office. We both were just trying to get our foot in the door when Blackjack Mulligan and Ric Flair came to Knoxville in '81, and that didn't turn out the way they'd hoped. And so Jack liked us, gave me my first full-time job in the business, and took me to Carolinas, and then we did all we could there, and Jake helped us get booked in Louisiana, and Buck Robley was booking at the time when we went in, and they never seen us, didn't know us. It was just I was on first, because they just put us together instead of, and we tore the house down. I'll just tell you, it was amazing. but we worked together forever. We knew each other, and Buck came. He said, "Guys, these two guys are looking for somebody's position." And he came back later and said, "Thank you." He said, "You woke these guys up a little bit, and it made them work harder." So, but that was just, we were hungry at the time. So,
Did you ever work with Les Thornton?
Les Thornton,
Les Thornton, yeah.
yes,
Did he?
I had eight 1-hour Marcus of Queens matches with him.
Did he sing the match as everybody with you?
I'm sorry.
Did he sing the matches? Did he call the match and sing while he was doing it?
Oh, not the whole match, but at times, yeah.
Okay. that was
That was solo.
But I sang Receipt to him many times.
Oh man, I used to, and Tony Charles, when those two would work together, I could not sit at ringside because I would just.
He was fun.
When those two worked together, they would have me just cracking up with the way they worked their matches, and that was a heck of a match to see.
When I was watching, Southeastern in the mid 70s, 75, 76, Tony Charles was up here. He worked for Ron. And then when I was down there in 83, I think maybe he came through.
Yeah.
Worked with him in Dothan. And what a pleasure. Gee whiz. To have seen him, sitting on the couch watching him at home, and then 5 years later you're in the ring with him. It was just amazing.
And there's another. That's a bad point to bring up, but it needs to be said. Another one we lost too early to Alzheimer's, and all the bumps that you guys took through the years. A lot of people have fallen into that. And of course, Tony was a boxer before he was a wrestler. Am I right on that, Tim?
Yes.
That's what I thought. He had taken a lot of hits to the head. But man, good talking to you. You were great talent in this business, and just wish we could one more time maybe have a 3 or 4 year run with the crew we had in about 83 in here. Wouldn't that be fun?
It would be amazing. My mind says go, but the body says whoa.
I think everybody else says, "Oh, yeah. Let's go."
Several years ago, I was working over in Sevier County that had the fair, and Dave's on me. Hey, come on, we'll put you in something tag match. You won't have to do much. And I said, but you get in there, and then you get to feeling it, and the people got behind it, and and I slammed this guy, and I went to the top rope, and I looked around. I thought, what in the world am I doing up here? And I just walked back.
You just got down, get down from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Charlie, you made a good point earlier about different styles. I think that's what's missing. Everybody has the same style. Doesn't matter who it is. Any show you watched one match, basically you've seen them all. Same thing over and over again, regardless. Whereas you were talking about, you have different styles. You had
what they have now, Rodney, is not even wrestling. It's acrobatics.
Yes.
And how Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone, and I've only watched that show 1.5 times. I'm of the old Ron Fuller persuasion. I've never watched a WrestleMania. I'm sorry. I've seen excerpts from it, but I've never watched one all the way through. But how Jim and Tony and over on the WWE side, how Lawler sits there because there's nothing for them to call. Think about it.
I can tell you how they do it. I can tell you how.
Well, it's like
well, yeah, there you go, Jack. You're right.
It's like on how many zeros on that check.
Yeah, well, like watching a tennis match. You know, it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until the ball stops. You can't absorb what they're doing.
Yeah, kind of like Lucha Libre.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of a lot. When we first watched, we had a satellite we had put here in the house. We were able to watch wrestling from Mexico. And we watched that and we thought, what in the world are they doing? We couldn't figure out or make heads or tails of what they were doing, especially in a tag match.